How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Down podcast, where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. Today, we are back with our Week 2 installment of Fan Mail Friday. I'm going to be answering all of your guys' questions prior to the Bears' Week 2 matchup with the Cincinnati Bengals. Definitely a must-win game for the Bears, a big one nonetheless against a weaker defense with a hot offense coming in. There's going to be a lot to discuss, so let's get right into it. Before I introduce myself, I'm riding solo today. I would like to say you guys have been showing so much support recently on every platform, on our social media, everywhere. If you guys are new to the channel and want the most comprehensive Bears coverage on the web, do us a favor, drop a like, subscribe, follow if you're listening on one of the podcasting platforms. We appreciate your guys' support. We're going to keep pumping out videos each and every day for you guys to listen into, shall I say, podcasts. But I'm your host, Chris Maltby, for the first time in a while. Solo dolo on this podcast. Didn't really have anyone to record with me. Parth in class. Jaylen is at school. I found a little nice patch in the middle of the day, and we have to pre-record for the weekend, so we have a lot of stuff to get done. But I am here today to answer your guys' Week 2 question. There's a lot to get into. Andy Dalton facing his former team, the Cincinnati Bengals. He's still going to be starting. A lot different of a defense that the Bears are going to be facing this week, and they have to perform offensively well and also play better defensively as well if they want to win this one to become 1-1. But before we get into this one and I answer some of your guys' questions, let's get into this sponsored message from our 2021-2022 season partners over at mybookie.ag. All right, guys, I would not recommend a service to my listeners that has not been good to me as well as my co-hosts. That's why MyBookie is always the right play. You bet, you win, and they pay. MyBookie has live in-game betting on every NFL game. They've got the most rewarding player perks and a crypto rewards program that is designed to celebrate cryptocurrency players. And for you fantasy guys out there, you can even bet on the over-under for how many fantasy points a player will score in each game. You can receive a 100% match on your first deposit up to $1,000 by using promo code BD to activate the offer. Visit MyBookie online today. The link is in the top of the description. That's MyBookie.ag. And don't forget to use our promo code BD when creating your account to claim the bonus. Bet, win, and get paid today with MyBookie. All right, let's get back into the podcast. All right, guys, a lot to break down today, and sorry if this is a little weird. I haven't gone solo on a podcast probably since like 2019, but it feels good. I'm able to answer some of your guys' questions today. There's a lot of burning questions, just so you guys know, while we're still in the beginning here. If you guys ever want to answer question or ask us questions that we could answer on this segment of Fan Mail Friday, on our Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube community tab, we ask for submissions every Friday or Thursday night. So if you follow us on social media at Bear Down or subscribe to the YouTube channel and look at our community tab, you can ask us questions and have a chance to be featured in a video. So let's get right into it. This first question is from DeVries12 on Instagram, and he asks, how many receptions or yards will our poor cornerback 2 position give up this week? I believe that is noting towards Kindle Vildor. Man, it's going to be a tough day for Vildor, personally speaking. We saw Joe Burrow come out last week against the Vikings, a defense that I don't think was too overwhelming. Might actually be worse than the Bears, if I'm being completely honest, even though they did record 5 sacks on Burrow. And Burrow lit it up. Jamar Chase had a 50-yard touchdown in a really good game. T. Higgins also had a solid game. C.J. Uzomah had a catch for 32 yards. So I don't know how many yards specifically that Kindle Vildor is going to give up. I'm more so worried about who's playing at slot corner for Chicago. Matt Nagy came out earlier this week and said he doesn't know whether it's going to be Marquis Christian, who gave up 3 catches for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns in week 1, or Duke Shelley. Shelley's someone who I've been more confident in as of recently. We saw him play at the tail end of the 2020 season, and he was solid. I like the energy he brings to the field, but he must be playing bad not to be winning that spot over Marquis Christian. But Kendall Vildor, I'm also a little bit weary about him. He's someone who I had a lot of confidence in. Had a rough preseason. He looked good in camp, but I feel like if you're not looking good in training camp, then what are you really doing? So I'm not too confident in the Bears secondary. I think this game could turn into a shootout. You guys will see my predictions tomorrow when it comes to this week 2 game between the Bears and the Bengals, and I've got it as a pretty high scoring one for sure. So I think it's going to be a tough day for the Bears secondary overall as a unit. If I'm being completely honest, I hope someone like Vildor could step up, but after that week 1 game, I'm not too confident in it whatsoever. Let's head over to our YouTube community tab for the next question. This one comes from Cam IGL. He says, since the Bears aren't facing Aaron Donald this week, will we have routes that go more than 12 yards? This is a good question. Obviously, we saw the Bears not be able to find much offensive success last week in terms of throwing the ball. Obviously, one pass, 15 or more yards through the air from Dalton was an interception. The longest pass he completed through the air was a 14-yarder, I believe, to Cole Kmet. So I do believe against a weaker secondary in Cincinnati that is missing Trey Waynes, they've been missing Trey Waynes the entire season, that Dalton will be able to find success throwing the ball down the field. I think it's going to be a big day for both Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney. Just taking a look at this Vikings defense, they allowed 22 receptions for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns to Minnesota wide receivers. That's 59 overall fantasy points and the third most to any wide receivers in the NFL. Trey Waynes obviously was sidelined for that game and is going to be out week 2 again. So the Bears are going to be going up against Awuzie, who allowed 6 receptions for 83 yards. Eli Apple allowed 7 for 79 yards and a touchdown. And then Mike Hilton, their slot corner, he actually, I think, is a pretty quality slot corner, but got targeted on 31% of Kirk Cousins' throws last week, and he allowed 7 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown. So I think if you're the Bears and you want to win this game, you cannot play horizontally. You have to attack downfield. You have to use your weapons, no matter who was at quarterback. If it was Justin Fields or Andy Dalton in this one, I would say the Bears have to throw the ball downfield. They have to get their playmakers involved. Larry Borum, obviously, is going to be missing for an extended period of time. He has a high ankle sprain. Jason Peters, I think, will be good to go in this one. I'm not too sure how confident I am in him holding up, so we might see a little bit of a shaky offensive line if Elijah Wilkerson slides in there. And the Bears' offensive line in general, they were fine last week, but overall still a very shaky unit near the bottom of the league. If Dalton can have time, I trust him to get the ball to his playmakers. That's what you should expect Andy Dalton to do. I guess he's a serviceable game manager. He's not going to be the quarterback that takes his team to the playoffs and wins them games. And we're going to see Justin Fields eventually. But long story short, to answer your question, I do believe we will have routes that go more than 12 yards. The Bengals did a really good job at bottling up Dalvin Cook, one of the better running backs in the league last week. And David Montgomery's coming in with a hot hand, 16 carries, 108 yards, and a touchdown. But I do think the Bears are going to have to throw the ball to have success in this one. Just like the Bengals, if I was a Bengals fan, I'd be saying, throw the ball on that defense. And I'm going to say the exact same thing for the Bears. Hopefully they can get some of that speed going with Darnell Mooney, Damiere Byrd, Marquise Goodwin. Goodwin. I always say Godwin. Goodwin. I've got to get into a better transition of continuing to say his name the proper way. I'm so used to Chris Godwin that I always say Godwin, but Marquise Goodwin, and then all reliable Allen Robinson. I think it's going to be a better day for the Bears offensively and as a receiving unit overall. I think hopefully Dalton can get some touchdowns on the board in this one. So let's head back over to Instagram. This one's from Maharanam. I think I said that right. He asks, does Andy Dalton pop off against his former squad and fan base? You know what? I don't essentially think pop off. I still think we see Dalton turn over the ball in this game. I'm not entirely confident in Dalton. I said it after week 1. I think he was better than Mitch and Foles would have been in his shoes. But I don't know about pop off. I'd like to think that the Bears have a fighting chance in this one and that they can win this game if they play good overall. But I don't think Dalton's going to pop off. I think hopefully the Bears will advert to the run a lot, even though, as I mentioned earlier, the Bengals defense was stout against the run in week 1. David Montgomery, give him the ball 20-plus times. But I do think we'll see a better game overall here out of Andy Dalton if that provides any sort of clarity. I think Andy Dalton's going to be a little bit better in this one. This next question is from Jacob Collins on Instagram. He says, the Bengals defensive line shut down Dalvin Cook last week. Do you think they can stop David Montgomery. If they shut down Dalvin Cook, there's pretty much a good chance that they can shut down any running back in the league. I'm confident in David Montgomery. He was clocked at 20.8 miles per hour. Sorry, I'm still getting over a little bit of a cold or a flu or whatever's been going through my system. But David Montgomery was clocked at 20.8 miles per hour last week on his 41-yard run. That's the fastest he's been clocked at any run in his career. David Montgomery, I think, is one of the most underrated running backs in the league. He only continues to get better, more decisive with the ball, quicker with his cuts. I do like him still heading into week 2. I think if you look at the Bears offense last week, that's really where the only spot they found success on offense was continuing to hand the ball to Montgomery. So I do believe that in week 2, we'll still see David Montgomery get a good handful of carries. I'm more confident in him to play better against the Bengals than he did against the Rams. Just looking at both of their defenses, but I was surprised with how he did against the Rams, and also on the same hand, this Bengals defense surprised me. So I'm not entirely sure if they're going to shut down David Montgomery. I think he'll still have a productive game. I'd like to see him get used a little bit more as a receiving back. But it should be an interesting one. I mean, this Bengals team, and I'm sorry, I really congested, but this Bengals team continues to surprise me. I think they're a sneaky good team. They've got a sneaky good roster. They've got a sneaky good front seven led by Trey Hendrickson. So should be an interesting one. But I do believe that David Montgomery hopefully will be able to find some success. Obviously, the Bears would not like to become one-dimensional in this one, and a quarterback's best friend is definitely a good run game. So if the Bears can get Montgomery going, they can get the play action going, they can keep the defense guessing. But I would like Montgomery to get 20-plus carries in this one. Next question from Devin Steer. He says, what do you think the key to winning this game is? Man, I'm going to go with getting pressure on Joe Burrow, if I'm being completely honest. I do think the Bears will get into more of a rhythm offensively in this one, but they have to somehow slow down the Cincinnati Bengals, an offense that is coming in flaming hot. I'm not confident in the Bears secondary, but I'm also not too confident in the Bengals offensive line. The Bears have too many playmakers up front on that front seven to not be able to get pressure to Burrow, to force him into some bad throws, to be able to hopefully win the turnover battle in this one. Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn, Akeem Hicks, hopefully Eddie Goldman back, Bilal Nichols, Roquan Smith. You guys have to hit Burrow. You guys have to put pressure on him, and hopefully can bring him down a decent amount. The Minnesota Vikings did it 5 times last week. I'm predicting around hopefully similar numbers for the Bears. The Bengals offensive line has some good pieces, Jonah Williams, Xavier Su'a-Filo, but they lack a lot of experience in the league. And a lot of those players have also been injured to start off their careers for a while. So they're riddled by injuries in the past, which leads to a lack of experience for them now. I think Chicago will hopefully be able to take advantage of that and be able to get pressure on Burrow and slow down the Bengals offense a little. That would be nice. I'm not entirely confident in that statement, but that's going to be the key to winning in this one, just overall slowing down the Bengals defense or the Bengals offense. And I believe that that does start up front with all the maulers that Chicago has. Let's go into one more question before I close this one off. This one's from adrenaline_777 on Instagram. He says, does Allen Robinson get over or under 100 receiving yards in this one? You know what? I'm going to be a little bold. I'm going to go with over. I believe Allen Robinson only had 36 receiving yards in week 1. And he's going to be up against Awuzie, someone who didn't have the greatest of times last week, covering receivers like Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. I do think the Vikings or the Bengals did a pretty good job of bottling up Justin Jefferson, but I'm confident in Allen Robinson. And, you know, he's someone who Mitchell Trubisky went to as his number one option. He's someone who Nick Foles went to as his number one option, and I think he's going to be someone that's a number one option for Andy Dalton. He's one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league, top 10, if not top 5 wide receiver in the league. So I'm confident that the Bears are going to go Robinson's way a lot on Sunday, especially against a defense that struggled last week. And I think Robinson answers the call. He's always someone who goes up, grabs deep balls, is able to use his catch radius to his advantage. So I'm going to go over 100 receiving yards for Robinson in this one, and might as well tack on a touchdown too. I'm actually very confident in how the Bears receiving corps are going to be able to do this week, especially Mooney and Robinson, but I think we'll see a good game from someone like a Marquise Godwin or a Damiere Byrd as well. The Bears have too much speed not to use it, and I think the receiving corps are going to have a good one in week 2. I might be talking a little bit too early, and I might be a little bit too confident after the Bears basically got blown out in week 1, but I do believe that the offense is going to bounce back in this one, especially in the receiving game. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to our week 2 installment of Fan Mail Friday. If you haven't already, do us a favor, drop a like, subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, do us a favor and follow. We like to differentiate ourselves from others here on the Bears internet, I guess you can call it. And we try and bring you guys the most comprehensive coverage on the web. So continue, join the ride with us. We're going to keep posting videos each and every day to keep you guys happy, and you guys keep showing the support. So we're going to keep banging them out. If you guys want more content from us, head to I believe it's the third link in the description, our website, beardown.com. We're posting columns, articles, and blogs to get you guys ready for the week 2 matchup with the Bengals. Also answering some of your guys' questions over on our website. We're going to be posting a blog really soon, answering some of your guys' questions. Also a pregame show article. One of our contributors likes to gamble, so he posts some of his best bets on there. We're doing a lot of good stuff on our website, so be sure to go check it out. If you'd like to enter giveaways, we do see sneak peeks of guests that we're going to have on the show. Interact with us and let us know what you want to see here on the podcast. You can find the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at Bear Down. And finally, you can find the links to my social media pages down in the description, my personal Instagram and Twitter pages. It's another great way to interact with me, and I always share my thoughts on all things Bears, the entire NFL, and the entirety of Chicago sports. So be sure to go check it out. Once again, just another great way to interact with me. Guys, it's been a pleasure to be your host. Once again, my name is Chris Maltby, and Bears fans, as always, do us a favor and stay safe and bear down. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.